morning. This is our third morning or fourth morning. So Tuesday, Wednesday, no, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it's our fourth morning, fourth full day morning. And at Parc National Plaisance. So yesterday afternoon, after I got back to the trailer, after I signed off from the little bit of yesterday's section, Joanne sent me a note because Joanne was out just down the trail here a little bit at a little pond where the turtle was, and she sent me a note and said, "Found Bobolinks. You should see how fast I can get my stuff ready." So I got out here. She came back. She almost was back. Like she was walking back. So she came back to show me exactly where she had seen the Bobolinks and gotten some photos. I think I got the juveniles, and I'll post those. I shouldn't. Once I get home, I'll know what they are. But it's like at this point today, on Thursday, having just taken the pictures yesterday afternoon, yesterday late afternoon, I'm still not 100% sure that they're juvenile bobolinks, but I'm kind of that 50-60% sure I got it right, the ID right. Juveniles are just sometimes so hard to tell compared to their parents. But I did see an adult bobolink off in the distance. Now I took it with I forget what lens I had, what camera. I think I had this one. I had the R with the 200-800, and I was just doing handheld. We'll just let the park's guys go by. They go around in their little scooters on their little golf carts. But he was far off. The only reason I'm sure that was an adult bobolink was because I, zoomed in so much that you could see the bobolink has a very distinctive head, feather colors, which some people will say is white, and it's not. It's actually a cream. It's a yellowy cream color when you get really close to them. So anyway, we got up this morning early, had our coffee, and then got out here, and bingo, found them. Well, I found one. I didn't realize 2 or 3 others were in the grass. Sorry, I'm on my little 3-legged stool here. There were three or four together, but I ended up being able to concentrate on the one male, the one adult I saw. Male, females look alike. And I got some pictures, so I'll post them now. But all in all, I was really, really happy with that, and I figured, well, I'll come back. We went back, had breakfast, and now I'm not quite sure what time it is, probably around 10. And it's very cloudy. We're looking at a possibility of thunder showers this afternoon, so I've got lots of time, but it's dark and cloudy, and I figured I'd come out and see if I could do some videoing. Of course, I've got the setup, and I've got my little 3-legged, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little 3-legged bench. Not very comfortable at all. I don't know if I've done my background. So while I'm sitting here, because I'm able to watch, and bobolinks are not going to be overly impacted if I'm sitting here chatting or not. And it's probably a good time. You might be wondering, well, where did I get my start in photography? And it really goes back to 1980. I was into hunting with my father. Part of our culture, part of the environment we grow up in, and just had one of those moments out on we were doing deer hunting, and had just one of those moments, and where it just was like a realization that hunting was not something I was really into. I ended up coming home, because this is way up in north of here, a place called Maniwaki, which is the Algonquin for Land of Mary. So we were up on a land, the area where my father's from, and my dad dropped me off at the bus station. I took the Voyageur, back at the time, the Voyageur buses, the Voyageur bus home to go back to school that week. My dad stayed up there for more hunting. But it was funny because when he came home, and my dad had sort of, my poor father, he passed away in 2019, but he had routine, to say the least. He did things a certain way, and that was kind of, he was very predictable. But he'd usually come home and start unpacking the truck, and when you heard him drive in, it meant get your ass out of the bedroom or off the TV and go out and give him a hand, because that was the deer hunt. Deer hunt usually signified his last multi-day trip up to Maniwaki for hunting, fishing, whatever it was. So there would be a lot more in the truck that needed to be removed. So I didn't move right away. I mean, I was at my little desk in my bedroom. I'm 15 years old, and I hear the door opening, and he says, my mom's in the kitchen, and it was probably a Sunday, but my mom's in the kitchen, and he says, where's Peter? And it wasn't angry. It wasn't like this, where's... My dad was a very... I don't want to say he was a gentleman. He was like a gentle giant. He was a very tall man, and he was a big guy. I'm the peewee in the family, but it was a sound of almost concern. And I didn't grow up in a big home, so you could hear anything going on. So my mom said, oh, he's in his room, and he just walked right, like I could hear him. He even kept his shoes on, like all the things. So he came into my bedroom, and he stood there, and it was this concern in his voice. He said, "Is everything okay?" And it was like this concern, like somebody is sick, and you say, "Are you okay?" Or how are you feeling? And I said, yeah, everything's fine. And he said, you just seemed really, really upset when you left. And he knew it was about the hunting. And I said, I just, I get, of course, you get all upset. You're 15 years old, and you figure you're about to disappoint your father. So, I said, no, I don't know if I ever want to hunt again. And it was funny, here's a man, his traditions, really surrounded about hunting and harvesting and being in the bush. And his only concern was, is it because you don't want to be with me? So it was a difficult few seconds, and I said no, and he said, oh, it's okay, and you still want to come up and hang around, but just not hunt? And I said, of course. So that was what happened that fall of 2015, of 1980. The following year, which like 6 months later type thing, in April of 1981. Was my 16th birthday, and my birthday gift was a camera, my first camera, and I'll show a picture of it because I still have that same camera. It was a XV1 Vivitar, very basic 35 SLR with the 50mm lens. That summer I had my first summer job. I worked at a car wash. Yes, quite interesting working at car washes. And I bought my first big lens, so that was the 200mm Vivitar, which I also still have. So that's I'm 60, so that's in 1981. So a few years later, in preparing to go to university, I got into film school and did a few years of film school. I wanted to go into a lot of the other students, and we were a small class. I mean, I think in the first year, second year group of film students, we might have been 8, 10 at the most. We were part of the journalism program at Carleton University, or associated to the journalism. We weren't part of it. We had our own chair. We were part of the journal. We were within the journalism building and stuff. So some of our courses were crossovers with the journalism course, and one I took because I was more interested in documentary. The other, almost I think everybody in the class was more, sort of the Hollywood commercial stuff. And I had a journalism prof. He was a very gruff, older man, but I was his only film student, and I probably was his only film student in a number of years. It was on docu-journalism or something like that. And he said, Peter, I'm not your advisor. I don't know you other than the one class, but have you given your consideration to doing broadcasting? So that would have been, 1984, 1983, 84. ENG, electronic news gathering, was relatively young. The Sony Betacams were brand new, or practically brand new. So I said, no, I've never really thought of it. And he said, for journalism and documentary, they go hand in hand. And so I ended up applying to Algonquin College, which is our community college in Ottawa. It has a broadcasting program, but it was the first year that they didn't allow direct entry into the broadcasting, even though I had the film school and stuff. It was they didn't allow me to directly apply for it. So I did what they called the pre-broadcasting year, which was okay because you ended up needing credits anyway, extra credits, and it just meant that when you get into broadcasting, I think it was a 3-year program, it would still only take you another 2 years because you'd have all your script writing, radio. I got to take radio, even though I wasn't interested in radio. Script writing, journalism, like how to do news gathering writing, and stuff like that, photojournalism, stuff like that. So I did that for 1 year, and just absolutely hated it. It just, I don't know, it just wasn't me. Ironically, there was one of my classmates had been at Carleton in the geography program when I was in film. I didn't know this person at all, but they recommended that I go into geography and then just pick up the film on my own. Because I had a Beaulieu camera, Super 8. I was shooting 16. Like, I had all the technical side. It was more the other things that you need when you're a filmmaker. I didn't have. So I thought, sure, and I went back, and I ended up in the end graduating from Carleton in geography, with more of a specialization in karst geomorphology. So an earth sciences side of geography, but in cave, with cave sciences. A year or two after that, it was after Joanna and I got married in 91, one of the local television stations, so a community TV station, was a few blocks from our house where we were living, our first home. It was the French channel, and I figured, well, what better way one, I get to practice my French, 2, I get to do TV. So I ended up doing some television work with them, production. I wrote one series of shows on environmental engineering, so garbage pickup, wastewater, water filtration, and paper recycling. So I did the script work, production of that, and then I also did a mountain bike race. I also got to be involved with a few commercial, with the commercial companies like for Bravo, Showcase at the time, TSN, would get in touch with the production manager, the manager at Rogers, one of the full-time staff, and say, listen, we need a crew, we need a PA, a production assistant. And sometimes they would ask me because I was the English person in the group, and these productions, one of them was an American production, and I could speak English, so it sort of like defaulted where the other volunteers, because this was all volunteer work, were just not comfortable enough to work in French or in English, where I of course was, so I got to do a few things like that. So but then it just all came to an end. For years I wasn't involved in film, I wasn't involved, hardly did any photography, until 2018 when I got back into DSLRs with a Canon T6, 1990, or 2020, in April, buying my 80D, and then the R, and now the R7. So that's where I come from. And in between that was, working full time for Parks Canada, being into hiking and camping and all sorts of stuff. So having the background from an environmental, harvesting, hunting, understanding species, and then just adding the video stuff, the video production and photography, now in my later life as I retire and can do this as a hobby. So that kind of puts a bit of puts us the walls around the house of why I got into this. And then I just got back in when YouTube, really, I was watching a number of YouTubers, either feeling inspired, as with Richard, very inspired by the quality of his work. I mean, he was in the UK at the time, he's here in Canada now on a short stay, but he was in UK, so different species, different environment totally, but it was inspiring. It's sort of like, oh man, I got to do that. And then quite frankly, seeing some of the shit out there being done, with people who have bigger following than Richard does, and going, what the heck is, sorry, what's wrong with some of these people, where you're watching, this person over here versus watching something like Richard's channel or Espen Hellard's channel, or like good quality intellect, like brain stimulating, learning, visually exciting videos, versus somebody sitting at a desk going, why is high ISO not a problem these days? I mean, it's important, it's good to know, but come on, grab the friggin' camera and get out there and show some pictures of the ducks that you're talking about high ISO on, or something. I don't know. Oh, a little bit of a rant in the morning is always good. Okay, so I'm just going to settle down here for a bit, with the Bobolinks it's pretty quiet. Been hearing song sparrows. I heard Kingbirds are in behind me, but no Bobolinks so far. I might just stand up a little bit because I can see a little bit better when I'm standing. It's kind of a funny little, these fields are very, these are very old fields. So they would have been created, when you think this would have all been forested, they would have been created probably back when the farmers in this area were using buck saws and horse or oxen and plows, and doing very manual work, ahead of even the steam tractors, some of the early steam tractors. So the land still retains its, the undulations and the valleys and the little, because today's modern equipment. They can throw a timberjack with a plow on it, or practically a grader, and just flatten this out in a matter of a day. What does this look like? This looks like about 3-4 acres right in front of me. A field could be flattened out to where it's got no real topography to it, no undulations. Easier for planting, but totally unnatural. So I'm just going to put this down for a bit and concentrate on the birds. I probably yapped on there for a while, but I think that's important, that you get to know, who you're watching and what their background is. Were they just somebody who was, and I'm going to pick on I know by saying this, it's picking on probably a few people out there, that some of whom I absolutely do admire, and they're great wildlife photographers. But is this just somebody who is a wedding photographer who just one day took a few pictures of a bird and thought that they'd be a bird photographer instead? I think it's important that you know where people are coming from, what their background is, what their credentials are, because you're learning stuff, hopefully. You're taking time to watch these videos, and you want to know that you're getting at least some level of competence in the person who's presenting to you, and it's not either just made up BS, or it's highly suspect information the person's pulling off of one or two books that they've kind of memorized and read. And I think that's why I like Richard, Espen, Paul, those guys. Steve, what's his name? There's a guy in the States I like that, and he's in I think he's in Wyoming, Jackson Hole. He's out in that area. Really into owls. Like that's really his shtick. Is the owl. Mine are sparrows, his are owls. But he does beautiful work on bears, grizzly bears, and elk and bison. I actually watched a bunch of his bison videos just to sort of get ready for what to expect when we see the bison in grasslands in a few weeks. But it's Steve. Oh my goodness, I forget. Anyway. He's another really good in the field, with the odd, tabletop thrown in, but definitely more in the field, like my other favorite YouTube photographers. And I think all of them are full-time. I think even Espen is full-time. But Espen, like me, comes from the ecologist, naturalist, science side into film and video, as opposed to, I think, Richard, and I might be wrong with Richard, but I think some of his older videos, he had a career before getting into YouTube, totally unrelated to it, and then just worked his ass off to be where he's at now once he retired from that previous career. So have a look if you're not following Richard Burkett. Give yourself a slap, because you should. Okay, so I'm definitely going to put this down, because that's 16 minutes of me waffling on, as the folks in the UK say when they're doing their videos. And I've got to pay attention for this, because the lighting is actually pretty darn good for the video anyway. Okay, talk to you in a bit. Okay, well, it's getting a little later towards the end of the morning. So I've been here a few hours, and unfortunately the Bobolinks haven't come back. You can see the sun's actually come out, which it's still fairly nice and actually pretty clouds, so it's not terrible, but I do not have an ND filter on this lens, and I found the one problem with this park is that because I can use my phone, it means I can order on Amazon. So I've ordered myself a variable ND filter by Earth, URTH, I think. So it's a variable ND 1 to 7 stops, and it's 95, so it'll fit on the where's my camera? There we go. So it'll fit on the 200 800. So anyway, that is one of the problems with this park, because I can order things and it's going to be at home in 3 or 4 days once we're back. So we'll have a new variable ND, and I think that'll help in grasslands. The other thing is, and I keep mentioning the poor guy's name. I'm going to have to pay him every time I say his name. I'm going to have to pay him a finder fee. One of the things, well, two things Richard's been teaching me, and if I can pass on to you again why you should be following him, so you don't have to get it secondhand from me. One, I don't carry, you'll notice I don't have my binoculars. Stupid. They're sitting in the trailer. I should have them. I know I should have them, but I don't. So having binoculars can be really something smart to do. The other thing a number of wildlife photographers do, Richard, just because when I've been with him, I've seen, he has his camera set up with his full frame, but he usually has a second camera body with the 100 to 500. Like he'll have his 500 or one of his big lenses, but then he'll have another camera with the 100 to 500. The advantage with that, and for me it would be having the R7 with the 400 or even the 100 to 400, and then the 200 800 here on the R, is that this becomes a dedicated film rig, and when I see something I want to take a picture, I've got the R7 here on the cotton carrier. That's the other way to go. Now if you're on, not that I realize I'm really lucky to have two, I won't say very good, two very decent film bodies, a number of decent good lenses for what I want to do. They're absolutely good enough that I can do that with. I can have two distinct setups, one for photography, one for filming. That might not be available to everybody, and like Joanne has her R8, although she does have the RP but she just doesn't bring it always. But she has her R8 and the 100 to 500 lens. That's all she carries, unless she's doing other stuff, which is the 24 to 100 or 24 to 105. But generally, it's one lens, one camera. So you have to be more flexible with your system that way. With me, I can make something dedicated to filming with the R and the 200 800 and not have to worry about that ND being on there. So anyway, it's actually looking, they were saying we're going to be in for some storms this afternoon, or a storm this afternoon, but I'm not seeing it. It seems awfully blue. So anyway, I'll leave it at that for this one video for the Plaisance. It'll be a little longer because it'll have different things. If I get anything between now and when we leave sometime tomorrow, I'll just add it at the end here, whether it's or I'll just add it now and take a little bit of a break and then give you an official sign off. So if there was anything else, you just saw it. If not, it's an abrupt cut to me saying goodbye. So everyone have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever, weekday or weekend, wherever it is in your schedule when you're watching this. The next video, I hope I had the one for Burnt Lands that I did. I think there's enough there that and Sheila McGee Municipal Park. There was enough there that I should be editing that in the coming days. Then I'll edit this. Hopefully these will be both published before we go off to Grasslands, and then Grasslands when we come back. I'll definitely have more than 1 or 2 videos for that trip, and maybe just some standalone bison time or pronghorns, which is my dream. Hopefully I can get to see. But until then, I hope everyone has a good rest of the summer, and you get out and get some. If you're into bird photography or wildlife photography, you get out and do that. And if not, that you at the very least get out and enjoy the good weather, hopefully that you're having wherever you live. And we'll see you on the next video. Take care. So I don't know if you can see her. When wildlife sort of messes up its own photos, this is I have a feeling she's being fed, and so she's a little bit more habituated than she should be. For those of you that don't know, this is a ruffed grouse. Partridge is the other more common name. It's a game bird. It's a well, I don't know if you can see her. She does peck at my feet, but it's not. I mean, it's no more than, she's like a chicken, a wild chicken. It's a natural bird. It's a bird that, unlike the gray partridge, which was introduced. These little guys are native to the boreal forests, to Canada, probably parts of the US. She acts territorial, and I should say that this is likely the same one 2 years ago that was doing the same thing, just a little further down. She acts territorial, like she has a nest, but I don't think she does at this point. She has no young, because you'd see them. It's late enough in the year. I think she's just gotten so used to being a little bit overly aggressive that she thinks this is just natural behavior for her. But so you can see she plucks at my feet. Okay, so I'm gonna leave her alone. I moved down far from what I thought was her area of interest, but it seems that I'm still too close to her. Oh well, I'll leave her alone and move on to it's actually past lunch and I'm getting a little hungry, so anyway, we'll say goodbye. Say goodbye. Hey, want to say goodbye? No. Okay, so we'll say goodbye on that.